Thank you very much today.
You're
Nice
welcome.
to see Amir and Fred, you gentlemen, back for today. If it's just us, it's going to be a wonderfully intimate session. Probably give you guys some time back in your day because I can go through it maybe a little quicker, but please, since it is just us for now, feel free to stop me with any questions that you may have. Last 2 weeks, we covered the ideation process and then actually some of the best ways to write your book. Today, did I actually hit share? No, I didn't. That would be helpful. We're going to go into the different ways that your book can be used as a business tool. If anyone was on my member spotlight, I covered some of this. We'll do it a little more in detail since I actually put together a formal presentation. So there may be more. As far as I'm concerned, there are 7 main reasons to write a book. You can refine these down maybe a little more, but these are the broad categories. The first is to expand your reach. So there's probably only a certain number of clients that you can currently help in a day, or a certain amount of sales conversations that you can have in a day, because we only have a certain amount of hours in the day to be present to facilitate those conversations. So whether you're a solopreneur or have a team of people, how can you touch more people? A book will help you amplify your message to audiences that you might never have thought possible. If you can get 100 people that are not going to commit to jumping on a Zoom with you, or are not going to commit to letting you come into their office and speak to them, but they'll let you send them a book, that's now 100 potential clients that may put some time on your calendar. Or you could schedule for someone on your team to have that initial consultation and use your time more effectively. Second, credibility. So we live in a world where everything is online with the click of a button. Most people, I know Joe Rojas has an interesting statistic on this, but I think it's something like 70% of people have already decided who they're going to do business with before they've ever spoken to them. Between the research they've done on your website, on Google reviews, Yelp reviews, whatever the case may be, people have done their homework. And that sales component is really just a formality to get to the finish line. So your book is a way to put your education, your achievements, all the reasons someone should know, like, and trust you in one neat little place for them. Added benefit, as a published author, your name's going to have more SEO exposure and give you a higher level of esteem. When you put in the time and effort to create your book, your credibility automatically increases. It's kind of like someone being a professional athlete. It doesn't matter what sport it is or whether they're second string. The fact that they have put in the time and training to make it to that level, they're automatically given a certain level of reverence. It's the same thing with a book, because most people only think about doing it. They never actually put in the work. Third, it's a good door opener. We spoke before about getting it in the hands of a lot of people. Books have really become the new business card. Anyone hands you the traditional, whatever that measurement is, little cardboard business card, chances are you're sticking it in your pocket, you're leaving it in your car cup holder. It's going to fall out. You may not find it for months. It's not doing a whole lot. You've got digital business cards, which are great because there is a record that live in your phone. But even that, someone's got to go in their phone to remember the conversation or for you to be top of mind. A book is a constant reminder of you and what you do. So you can cold call, use email marketing, ask for bridge relationship, which are warm market introductions, or mail a copy of your book to someone that you want to speak to. So let's say there's a big firm Fred wants to get in front of, and he mails a book on what he does or his expertise. The CEO of that company may not read the book, but chances are it's going to wind up on their desk. They're going to open it. Someone's going to say, hey, this guy sent you a book in the mail. No one ever throws a book out. I don't know about you guys. I've never thrown a book out. I may not read it, but I have podcast guests left and right who send me copies of their book. They're sitting here in a stack on my floor. I remember their names when I look at it. I don't have the time to read them, but sometimes, depending what the outcome of your goal for your book is, you may not care if they ever read your book. If it's the reason they take your phone call and sign up to do business with you, the book did its job. At some point down the road, they may actually read the book and give you that validation as well. Then we have value add, right? We all want to be able to give our clients the best possible value. I know the V50 community is very big on teaching, sharing. That's why we do these breakouts. This is why we do all of these different subject matter experts coming together and sharing. So when you're able to give your clients who are already paying you money for your services, and maybe they're not paying you directly, maybe it's in the form of the commission off the product you sell, but they already like you enough, know you well enough, trust you to give you their business. If you could give them in return a copy of your book, which only costs you a few dollars, the goodwill where they now get an insight into some of the things they may not know from their casual conversations with Amir, the financial advisor, or Fred, the information security guy. You may say one thing in your book that resonates with somebody that you never would have thought to say to them in person. And that could be the difference between that person finding your relationship even more valuable and saying to a friend, oh my goodness, you have to read what Amir wrote in this chapter. Like, it completely changed my life. Those are the little things you don't know until you try. So no matter what your message is, a book is a perfect complement to the other products and services you have. Many people who get into doing a book also do courses, personalized coaching services. Maybe you're doing seminars, financial, whatever it is. It's just something else for your client, either future or current, to see that you are a thought leader and that you're bringing tremendous value to everything that you do for them. Then we've got brand enhancement, which is similar to credibility, only this is taking into account more than just you. This is going to help you grow and reach more clients, and let your prospects feel like they're in the best hands, even if you're not the one directly working with them. So to give you an example of that, I'm the shoemaker with holes in his shoes, but I have had a book in the works forever on all of kind of a compilation of all of this knowledge on why to write a book, how to write a book, just kind of a how-to guide for people to write their own book. And I see that as a pen for hire brand enhancement, not necessarily a Matt Harms credibility. Can it do both? Yes. But I want that book written from the pen for hire perspective with input from my team and how they work. Because much like you can only have so many sales calls in a day, I can only write so many books in a day myself. There's going to come a point where I'm maxed out and I can never make any more money than that until some finish. Now, when people want to work with pen for hire and it's removed me personally from the equation, I can hire 3 more writers and plug them into the system. Now I can take on 3 times more projects. And my client is comfortable plugging in, knowing, well, this is the pen for hire experience. So that's where the book can really shine that brand enhancement for your clients. Then you've got marketing and publicity. Books are conversation starters. Whether you make a bestseller list or not, having a book gives you plenty of opportunity to get in front of other people, right? You've seen it in V50. Anyone who has a book, there's book club. You can have your book read in book club. You can get on podcasts. There's public relations specialists. You go to a party and you tell someone you wrote a book. You now have a circle of people who want to know what your book was about. Where did you get that idea? How did you do it? It becomes an evolving conversation where 10% of the conversation or less is usually about what the heck your book's about. It's more about getting to know you, why you decided to write it, what the process looked like, who helped you, how did you publish? And before you know it, you've got people now giving you their card, wanting to do business with you, and they haven't read a page of your book. Last one, kind of like value add, giving back to your audience. So never underestimate how meaningful it can be to your clients to know more about the authentic you. A book can make you more relatable and appealing to do business with. It's your opportunity to be vulnerable and attract the type of clients who you provide the most benefit for, not the ones who are going to pay you the most, but the ones who you provide the most benefit to. And my favorite thing about the book, if you remember from week 2, we spoke about not censoring yourself. And when you sit down to write the book, everything that comes to your mind about you, your company, your process, everything you know, get it down there on paper. Decide as you go what may be too much and what's not, but people can tell if you're not being authentic. They can know if you're holding something back. They can know if you're only trying to sell them a book or sell them a service. They want to learn about you throughout the process as well. So any questions on those 7 reasons to have a book?
Yeah, I do. So number 1, reach. Do you have examples of those reaches that were attained by certain authors that you wrote for? Some kind of metrics as to what their audience did they got from the book. Some of the I wonder if you calculate, I know the author probably does, and not you being the writer, on what they were able to attain from writing that book.
Yeah, so we don't track that personally, Fred, just because the amount, I would need an entire analytics team, and every author does something a little differently with their strategy. What I will say is I can give you a few examples of just general ways clients have used it. I have one client who is a music executive in Los Angeles. She set up a pre-order link and ordered 500 copies for herself, and then had an invite-only release party for music industry executives to come and mingle. Their cost of admission was buying the book. They got to meet the author, and she used this as a way to put, it wasn't framed as for herself. It was more for the guests to meet each other. She had executives from Disney Music Group. So it was, yes, she sold her book. She got her name out there, but it was done in a very casual way to bring all these people together. I have a client who's a professional athlete. He works with elite college and professional athletes on their mental health, and he's used the books for the different schools that he works in to solicit them to do programs to hire him for coaching for independent teams. So those are just 2, I don't know their success rates. Like I know that one event, but I know they're continuing to do it and they're happy with their results. So what the number is, I don't know, but I know it's working.
I've got 2 other quick questions on, like, say for instance, Catherine Brown, she wrote that book. I don't know how long ago she wrote that book. How long can you use that book to market yourself? I mean, I know it could probably be forever, but usually there's a time when you start on a second book, or where's the transition timeline kind of, and talk to me like I'm a layman, because I don't know anything about what you do.
So there's 2 answers to that question. The first, you kind of hit it on the head. A book does not have a shelf life. It does not have an expiration date. However, the longevity of how long it's going to be impactful is going to be unique to each person. And that's going to depend a lot on your back-end marketing. How much are you out there? Like Catherine is phenomenal at constantly promoting it, mentioning it, getting people to review it, which keeps it relevant and current. If you put it out there, you use it for a couple months to attract 10 new clients, and then you let it fall by the wayside and it's just lingering out there in the Amazon billion book library, you're probably going to need to come out with a second book to become relevant again. Or you can always make changes to the first one. We have people that do this all the time, call it a second edition. You add a chapter, you add some information. There's all different creative strategies, because the content in your first book has not gone out of style, right? Unless you're writing about a topic that truly does completely change, like maybe computer technology or something that's now no longer, then maybe you do need a completely revamped one. But yes, you can use that original one, you can revamp it. You want to always retain control of how you're using that book, how you're promoting it, who you're telling about it. When you have a new book coming out, you mentioned the first one. Hey, my first book came out 2 years ago. We're now coming out with the second one. Tell them how they tie together. Get them to buy the first one before they buy the second one. It's all that. And I know, hopefully I'm talking like layman, because my brain starts to go a little bit in marketing overdrive, where there's so many different moving pieces that you could do to keep them relevant and alive. It's just really picking and choosing what works best for you with the resources that you have.
Yeah, and thanks. That was a good answer. And then the second is, I'm always intrigued on how different industries work with their consultants, and yours is writers. And I understand that you get to a certain point, you can only take so many clients, and you said you go back to the Pen for Hire brand, and then you can bring in as many writers as you want. How difficult is it for, when people get to know you, they want you to write the book? How do you talk them out of, I know you said Matt Harms within a 24-hour period, but then you bring in writers for Pen for Hire. How difficult is it, or easy is it, to bring extra writers in and have them work with your clients?
So that, I mean, I hate to constantly say there's multiple answers, but there's multiple answers. Let's say someone was referred to me. Let's say it's a V50 member who was referred to me by another V50 member, or someone that came through a very close connection. Chances are that person is going to expect to work with me. And the likelihood of me being able to convince them otherwise is going to be more difficult, right? Because they've heard all about the experience. Like when Joe refers me people, there is no question that they think they're working with me, because he doesn't tell them how well Pen for Hire did. He tells them how well Matthew did. So that one's a little more challenging, and I have to accept the fact that that's a good problem to have if people are wanting to work with me specifically. Other people who come through website, or come through people that I meet on LinkedIn, or connections from other connections who I've never worked with, those can be a little easier to set the expectation up front, which I've gotten better with now that we've had so much work, is on those original onboarding calls, letting them know this is our process. You'll work with one of our project managers to interview and build the outline. You'll work with one of our interviewers to extract the information, and then our team writes your book behind the scenes. We submit it to you for approval, chapter by chapter, and you sign off. So at that stage, they're more buying into the team model. They know that I'm involved somewhere. They spoke to me. Sometimes if there needs to be a little more reassurance, I let them know on the outlining calls. I'm always present for at least the first two to make sure that everything is built to your liking, and then the writers take over. So it's one of those art and science, Fred. You kind of like, if someone's coming to you, work with your company, and there's no chance they're going to work with one of your project managers, you do it.
Yeah.
Or, you do a cost benefit analysis. If I'm really booked and I can't do it, I will let someone know, if you want to work with me, I'm going to need more than the normal time frame, or, the price is going to be up a little bit because I'm overworked.
I had another question here. Oh, on the back end of the book, do you always kind of review it, or do you leave it up to the writer to kind of, let the client see the finished product, or is that something you leave up to the writer?
At this stage of the game, I am still fully involved in reviewing the chapters before the client sees them. I have one or two writers who are almost at the level where they've mastered my process, and I don't even want to say like anything they write, I would still want a second set of eyes. The goal is to move them to the point where the new writers do the writing and they do the oversight. But for now, I still do personally check everything before it goes to a client for review.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions before I head into the 7 ways to put those reasons into action?
I know that Matt we are being recorded, so I can't say anything that is out of compliance. So I will say what would meet my compliance standard. I want to thank you once again. And we have a process when we go through, if you're familiar with the sales development, some people are visual and some people are digital. And you have to decide who you like to work with the most. People that are visual, people who are versus people who are digital. But I want to tell you, coming to the third segment of what you're sharing with us, I think that you get to see this over and over and over again, that usually the funnel process is 20 people show up, then 10 people show up, and then 3 people show up. So now, I don't know about Tanae, but now you're whittled down to the people that are really serious. So, and you're offering some value. And Zig Ziglar used to say when he was alive, and it's a great thing, when people don't pay, they don't pay attention. When people don't pay, they don't pay attention. So I would like to inspire my fellow V50 partner in Texas, that if you're thinking about becoming an author, I think there are 2 things that you need to write down, and indulge me when I share this. And I'd like to maybe inspire, transition you from saying, why me, to why not me? That's all you need to know, because I think that you have a story that in our short conversations, when you shared it with me, you have a life story to share. So I think that I'd like to inspire you to share that story, Fred Costa, in Texas, from New York, who has a heart with a red apple.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate the plug, Amir. And it's funny you mentioned Zig Ziglar, because I have a relatively new partner, referral partner. She does more publishing than anything. Her name's Michelle Prince. She's a best-selling author, but she used to work for Zig Ziglar, and now she consults for Ziglar Enterprises. And lately, we've done a few different projects together for people coming out of the Ziglar programs. So, very good lead-in to the 7 ways to leverage your book. So we kind of spoke about this with no one throwing out a book. Use physical copies as a mail ahead. You know, there's something to be said in this day and age of email, of text messaging, of 1, a phone call, and 2, a handwritten letter. I'm gonna make you all laugh right now. I got a handwritten letter the other day, and I'm like, the hell is this from? I don't know anyone in this zip code. It was from a Jehovah's Witness, personally addressed to me, handwritten. I read the freaking letter just because I felt compelled, since they took the time to write me a handwritten letter. I mean, that's way harder than walking down the street, knocking on my door. So, I mean, I didn't call them, but I gave them the respect of reading the letter. Now, you send someone a book and you actually write the label, you send it to them, someone's going to take notice, right? People are used to getting computer generated everything, someone's assistant, labels. The more personal you make something, the more memorable it's going to be. And it's not just going to sit there unopened on a desk. The curiosity is going to eat away at somebody until they open it and say, who is this Fred Costa person that sent me a package? Where did I go? Okay. So yes, no one throws books away. Even if that person, that CEO that you're trying, maybe they give it to their CIO, maybe they give it to their CFO, and they're like, hey, I got this book in the mail. Do you want to read it? Do you know this person? Someone in that company at some point is going to read it, or it's going to sit on their desk long enough where they may be bored enough one day to turn it over, read it, and get into it. It's not something that you may get the call back tomorrow, but 3 months, 6 months, again, book's not expiring. It's not going bad. Books drive traffic to your website. How do you do that? You can do that a few ways. One of the biggest marketing things that authors use is a free chapter download. So you can have your introduction or any chapter of your book and let people know you're giving it away for free on your website. All you need is a link to your website. You may ask, what is the benefit of doing that? Well, again, we live in an age where people's information is like gold. So if you can get someone over to your website to sign up for your newsletter or to sign up for whatever it may be to get your free chapter download, you've now brought them one step closer to being in your world. Didn't cost you anything other than a chapter you had already written. Maybe they buy the full book because they love the chapter. Maybe you add them to your newsletter and 3 months from now, they decide, oh my goodness, this is the service I've been looking for. I'm glad I went and signed up here 3 months ago. It's an email address you wouldn't have had. The book's already done. Can't hurt. It's free marketing. Most of us already have at least one website, if not multiple. QR codes and links. So this is Joe Rojas, blew my mind on this. He's mastered this. You can do this on 2 levels. The first is for your own products and services. So let's say you have a physical offering or you've got a course and you want to get someone to that landing page. If you put a QR code in the book, you have cut the time down that it takes that person to take action, because we live in a very lazy world. If someone if they have the physical book in their hand and they now have to go to the computer and type in your URL, chances are you just lost 70% of the people who are thinking of doing it, either because they don't want to do the work or they say they're going to do it and then they get sidetracked between the book and the computer because a cat video pops up. Now, the phone's probably close to them all the time. So if they see the QR code, they snap it, you're already in their hand. Your likelihood of them doing something with the information you gave them has gone up dramatically. Joe has taken this a step further, and he also has an Amazon affiliate account. So if he references a book by another author, he puts a QR code in there that came from his Amazon affiliate account. If he mentions a certain microphone or piece of technology that he uses, he puts a QR code in there. So if someone decides to go and buy it, Amazon pays him for that referral. So not saying you're going to write a book for the sake of becoming a 6-figure Amazon affiliate, but it's just these little things that don't really cost you anything extra to do. And it's really just a matter of thinking it out in advance of, is this a strategy that could be beneficial for me? Provide seminars and talks based on the content. So for anyone who is a public speaker, you definitely know that books were always very, very valuable in getting speaking engagements. Since COVID, what I am hearing from our speaker clients and those who put on events for speakers, it's basically become the barrier to entry. If you do not have a book, you are most likely not getting picked to go up on stage and speak to any type of meaningfully sized audience. And if you are, it's not going to be a paid event. Now, exceptions to that rule, I don't even know if Jeff Bezos wrote a book. He probably doesn't need a book to get on stage. The rest of us, if you want to speak to a couple thousand people and get paid $100, $200, $300 per ticket sale, you're going to need a book. It's just, unfortunately, the way of the world. COVID cut down the amount of engagements and it pushed everyone into fighting for the same engagements. So why does the book become that popular, and why is it used for a barrier of entry? It lets the event organizers know that you have something meaningful to talk about. If they're going to take a chance on filling a room and charging, spending tens of thousands of dollars on an event, charging ticket sales, and you're supposed to get up on that stage and talk for 2 or 3 hours, they need to know you're going to fill the time. They need to know that it's going to be something the audience is going to leave there feeling better for having spent 3 hours and some of their money listening to. there's only so much you can screen a person prior to an event by having an interview or filling out a form. Someone says, nope, here's my book. That person knows you. If you filled 300 pages of a book, you could probably talk for 3 hours. Swag bags for events. So Catherine Brown did this with the V50 in-person event in September. Right. Actually, V50 did this for many people. Everyone who attended got a swag bag. There was some coffee in there. There was some Jack Daniels. There was Catherine Brown's book, some merchandise. So it doesn't have to be a paid speaking event. It could be a networking event. It could be anywhere you go where there's 5, 10, 15 or more people. Bring a bag like with your company. It could be Fred's logo, and it could be, you know, some cybersecurity tips, some pen, whatever it may be, mouse pads, and your book. If you do it in collaboration with others, like the V50 event, it's a great place to stick your book. You know how many people read Catherine Brown's book that were probably meaning to order it and never got around to it, but did because now it's in their hands. You can do that for if you're doing talks at universities. I know Joe did this with his Rutgers contract, where when they filled a room and got him 50, 60 students, he would send swag bags and they would be loaded with company merch and his book. And guess what? I'll let you know a secret. He charged more for the program because of that. Because now they felt like they were getting something beyond just the content. Everyone's leaving with a swag bag. Like, that's great. It may have cost him $20 a bag, charged an extra $500 a ticket. It's a win-win-win. And don't quote me on those numbers, speak to him. But you know, even if you $20 for the bag and you charge an extra $100 for a ticket, you're 5xing your revenue, and you're putting that book in the hands of somebody who is now potentially likely to do business with you later. So recruit new talent. This one is really not for everyone. I only throw this in here because I think it's huge for certain businesses. And I already gave you the pen for hire example of how if my whole process is in one place, the way we work, our story, anyone who may want to write for us, that book can be used kind of as a training manual. I have clients, well, I can't call them clients yet. I was just in the initial stages of talking to one of their representatives yesterday. They own a baseball coaching company. One of the gentlemen was a professional MLB player. The other one played college sports. They have a number of courses. They're geared for coaches and parents. These are available on Kajabi. They made, I think their representative told me they made $70,000 last month just in course sales. But currently, their in-person coaching business, they're located in central New Jersey. These two gentlemen are basically the show. Like kind of like working with Penn. If you're going in person, you're working with them. The reason we were having this conversation was I put this in their head of, what about franchising? What if you want to have your model replicated in Texas for people down by Fred Costa? What if you want to replicate it in Connecticut? What if you want to replicate it in California? You can not only, sure, franchise your name that's very successful now and known, but if someone's going to take that franchise, like McDonald's does not let you fail. They have a system for everything. They have a handbook for everything. Everything is so neatly organized, you can't fail. That is my vision for people who have a business model that can be franchised out or open separate locations. Amir, if you wanted to take on a junior advisor, if you wanted to train someone to do what you do, here's the book. This isn't just how to do financial advising, because there's a million books on that, but this is how Amir Asadi does it. These are my values. This is how we build our business. These are the customers we work with, and a step-by-step guide from everything to soup to nuts to make that business work. So now that I say that out loud, there's probably more businesses than I think that could benefit from this. It's not going to be for all. Some are just happy to get more clients, but it's definitely a big value add going further, especially if you're ever at that point where you want to sell your business. Having that manual, right? May not be an Amazon bestseller, but now you're maybe a little more technical policy and procedural manual, but done in such a way that someone falls in love with the business. They want to buy it. It's your story. great tool to help you sell your business. And lastly, expand your marketing funnel. So we mentioned about that free chapter to bring people to your website. I mentioned in a couple other examples, like my baseball people who have their coursework. There's many of us who do personal consultation or personal work. Maybe you have a website, maybe you have a blog, you've got your whatever social media that you're using. All of these channels are different ways to bring people into your world. Someone may like your Instagram post, someone may like your Facebook post, someone may like your blog post, someone may buy your course, someone may find your book on Amazon. Once they do any one of those things, they've started to come into your funnel. And it starts with one. The goal is to get them to want to do more, to consume more. So if they click on your Facebook post, that's how they found you. And they're like, oh, Fred's got a course. Let me see what that's $99. Let me see what that's about. They take the course and now they're like, wow, that was great. I need a little more. Oh, shoot, he's got a book. Let me read the book. Another cold hard fact, most people are still never going to solve their problem by doing any of those things just because it's not human nature. They're going to love it. They're not going to feel like they got ripped off, but they're probably going to say, gee, how do I work with Fred directly? Because I love the course, I love the book, I love his content, but I just really need him to kind of hold my hand and do this for me. And that's where the book comes in as an additional component of all those other things we give to our clients. And that is it for me on the 7 ways to use the book.
Matt, that was awesome. I really think you could. I'm so happy that I went through the course or the 3 sessions, because I had no clue on any. I mean, I'm the worst writer ever, and thank God, Word now fills in some blanks, and as I'm writing emails, that AI tool helps me out a little bit. But this has really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of different things, especially, you were talking about the 3 sessions that you did. I think you should constantly do these. I mean, how often do you do these sessions?
In all honesty, this is the first time I've spoken about a few different pieces of the thing that were in this presentation randomly in groups when someone asked me to do like a 10-minute presentation. But when Lane and Alan gave me the opportunity to do an ongoing workshop and they said, how many sessions do you need? I was like, well, I could probably take up 3 and segment this. So this is the first time. And actually, once my assistant started putting this together in slides for me, I thought the same thing. I was like, well, hopefully based on feedback, there's some value here. I would love to give this to more people.
Well, you should definitely take it on the road and do more Zoom events like this, because I think there's a lot of value for up and coming writers and people that need help. I really got a lot out of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It kind of got me thinking about some of the funnels that you were talking about and marketing. And, it's funny because probably about 10 years ago, I knew a marketing and sales guy, and he had created his own book. It was a small book, but it was all about sales and marketing and the differences between sales and marketing. And it was and I thought, man, this is really gimmicky. I don't know about this. So I read it, and it had a lot of information in it. So now that you've kind of put it into context, it's kind of an extra tool. So I'm actually thinking about it now.
I'm happy to hear that. Like I said, my goal is always just to get people to realize it's not easy, but it's not as difficult, and it's not as prohibitive as people think. And as long as you are being real and you're being relevant, there is no new content out there. People look at me when I say that and they're like, are you crazy? I'm like, well, there's really no new content. Everyone's written about everything there is to write about. It's just the way it is. However, not everyone has written about it from your unique voice, experiences, approaches. And that's what makes every book different. You can read 30 books on weight loss and 29 of them fail. But it's that 30th one because you connect with you connect with the author, you connect with the message. There's something in there that just clicks for you that makes that one work. And it's the same thing for anything. You can't write anything that's going to appeal to everyone. It's physically impossible.
Well, I guess as long as the author has, decent content, you can manipulate it any way, you see fit with your help.
Yeah, you would not catch me trying to write a book on anything that you do, because it would be the worst written piece of what, because I know nothing about it. Much like I think everyone has that, but if you know what you do, it's actually sometimes harder because you have this wealth of knowledge bottled up inside your head. And for you, a lot of it is, well, everybody nobody knows what you know. And once it starts coming out, that's where working with someone else, you'll realize where they're like, wait, explain that to me again. Because I have clients who I have to, what they think is one chapter or one section. I'm like, you got to break that down because I don't even know how we got there. Like, what does that mean? Where did it come from? And what does that mean to your reader? And they're like, oh, I just do this every day. I thought it was understood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, well, you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. I have not been here for all of the sessions, but I have listened to bits and pieces of the first and the second session. And I have to say that one of the things that you said that rang so true to me is kind of sort of like a standard operating procedures when you were talking about the baseball individual that, was, and it's just so true, in terms of like you saying you are the only one that really knows like what your individual information, and being able to put that down into some procedures so that someone else can, follow them, and that then you can market yourself that way. I think that's, ingenious. And I think a lot of times when you have a business, you don't really think of that because you're so enthralled with what you're already doing, as opposed to saying, here, I need to write this down so that in the event that something happens to me, or if I want to sell the business, I can make that an easy process to happen. That was awesome. Thank you.
We are very good at complicating our lives and our business. But when you actually take the time to write it for a fifth grader to understand,
right,
it makes all the difference in the world. You're like, what have I been doing all this time?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How many projects are you kind of working on? Give me an example of what your team looks like and how many projects you're kind of working with right now and what kind of projects you're working with. That'd be kind of good to know.
Right now, it's myself and 4 others. I've got my executive assistant, Laura, who's in Colombia. I've got my chief operating officer, Jen, who handles all of my operations, systems, policy, procedure. I have Josman, who's my podcast and technical editor, marketing, all of that good stuff. And then I have Marissa, Nico, who's my podcast co-host. And I have Marissa, who is my writer / project manager. Jen, in addition to being COO, doubles as one of the other writers.
Cool.
Current projects, we've got 2 wrapping up in April. So not including those, we have 6 others going on. One is on emotional intelligence. One is on actually 2 are diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have Marissa doing one, I'm doing the other because I don't want to blend the 2 authors' voices. So they were disclosed that I'm not going to work on your project because I'm already doing one. And like, you don't want to do that. That's not a good look. Too easy to blend the voice. We are wrapping up one on mental health for athletes. That's the gentleman I mentioned who was coaching. I have one we're wrapping up on website building and branding and world schooling and parenting in a time of change. That one's wrapping up. And the other ones escape me at the moment.
And do also help them with getting it published, or the business end, or you just strictly on the writing side?
So one of our goals for this year was to really put together a package that encompasses everything. We have not done that yet just because the writing portion had been so good. I've been managing that growth. But in terms of straight publishing, if someone says, Matt, I just need to get this out in the world, I want it published as soon as possible, we do all, we'll walk them through getting it up on Amazon. We'll format everything. We'll get them a print quality book, with only thing that would be extra outside of our normal contract is the cover design. If someone says, Matt, we really want to do a traditional publishing, if you remember from week 2, I pass them off to people who work with literary agents and let them explore those waters. And if someone says, no, I really want a comprehensive marketing strategy, like I don't have a team, I want someone to kind of do all of this for me, I have partners that I introduce them out to. I have the lady I mentioned earlier, Michelle Prince, from Performance Publishing Group. I work with Fabi Pressler over at Spark Publications. I've got 2 independent public relations specialists who just promote authors' books, 2 social media owners who work specifically with authors. We use Neko for video book trailers, author websites. So yeah, I've got specialists who work in every different component, and I can put my clients in touch with absolutely every piece they're missing to decide who they want to work with, if anyone.
That's great. That's great. Perfect.
Well, everyone, we have about 6 minutes left. So if there are any other questions that you all have for Matt, now is the time to ask.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Thank you,
Awesome
Fred.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
My pleasure, Amir.
Great. Y'all have a great day.
Yes. Is there anything else, Matt, that you had to wrap up?
No, that's it. I appreciate you guys. If you've got any questions, I mean, you all have my contact information. Just reach out, set a time. I would love to, anything that I didn't answer, we can absolutely have a one-on-one call and I'll happily take you through it.
Yeah, I'll
Awesome.
definitely send you my calendar so we can do a one-on-one.
Fantastic. I appreciate you all.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Take
much,
care. Have a
Matt,
great
for
day.
everything. Have a
Bye,
great
guys.
day, everyone.
Bye.